Hopefully everyone can see my screen now. So as I mentioned, talking about the graduate pathways to licensure. So the programs that we offer at Mary Washington. One of the changes that we did go through a year ago is we did change to undergraduate initial licensure programs. So this does mean that you will have everything that you need for a license to teach in the state of Virginia within that undergraduate degree, so within that 4-year time frame. So that includes your bachelor's degree and then the licensure requirements. So just a little bit of background. We have been educating future teachers for over 100 years. So since UMW opened its doors, of course it was Mary Washington College, but we started out as a normal school. So we started out educating teachers. And so that is something we take pride in, that we continue that tradition to this day. This is just a sampling of some of the accolades. I can tell you it's not the most up to date. We have current ones, but it's just a sampling to let you know that our students are graduating from our program and they're going out into the community and they're being successful, whether it's getting Teacher of the Year or different fellowships and grants, Fulbright grant, things of that nature. And we do have teachers who are working all over the country as well as all over the world. We do have a lot of individuals that participate in the Fulbright, as well as individuals that go into the Peace Corps. So there's a lot of opportunity outside of just the P-12 public system that is traditionally thought about with the teaching license. So these are the programs that we do offer. So we offer elementary, secondary, pre-K through 12, and special education general curriculum specifically. And I'm going to go through each of these with you individually and explain them a little bit in more detail. And the first up is our Bachelor of Science in Education in elementary education. This is the only program that is a major. So you do not need to select another major. Elementary education would be the focus in addition to your general education courses. And those general education courses are the courses that all students select from, such as quantitative reasoning, writing intensive, speaking intensive, etc. So this would be the major. Your degree would be the Bachelor of Science of Education. It is a license in Virginia to teach pre-K through 6. So all of the elementary level grades. It does require a little bit of background in a variety of content areas, because in elementary you do teach a variety of those content areas. So we provide some of those within the education program. We provide courses on social studies. We provide math content and instruction. We have courses in science and technology. But there are also going to be courses that we will specify that meet general education courses that are outside of the College of Education. And those 4 courses, not that you have to have those memorized, but they're going to be US History 1, World Regional Geography, Linguistics, and Statistics. So those 4 courses, we will work with you to make sure that those are incorporated into your program. But those are required then for the elementary education students. For our secondary, so our secondary is a license in Virginia to teach grades 6 through 12. So it does incorporate middle school and high school. With this particular licensure pathway, you would need to major in the content that you want to teach. So we're going to provide you the education courses, the how to teach that content, how to manage the classroom, how to use instructional technology. But the content is going to come from the major. So if you are interested, for example, in teaching mathematics, so you would want to major in math and then you would enroll in the education program. So the math major would provide the content, the math program, or sorry, the education program would then provide you the licensure requirements. So when you graduate, your degree is actually going to be in math. But we will make sure that you have all of the requirements to apply for the state license to teach secondary. One of the content areas that I do want to point out, in case anyone in this session is interested in teaching secondary history and social science. So in the state of Virginia, history and social science is more of an umbrella term. I have a lot of students that come and say, you know, I really want to teach history, which is great. Students can major in history and take this licensure pathway. But just so you know, it's going to incorporate more than just history. And so students are required to take courses in history, political science, economics, and geography. So, you know, an individual may finish the program and receive this teaching license, and their passion is history. But once they're hired, they may be asked to, you know, teach a US government course as well, or something to that nature. So it is an umbrella term, and we're, an umbrella licensure. And so we're going to make sure that you have the content courses in addition to your major in order to meet the licensure requirements. Okay. The third pathway is pre-K through 12. So this is a license to teach elementary through high school. Now it is only specific for the areas listed at the bottom of this slide. So very similar to the secondary education pathway, you would want to major in the content that you want to teach. So you would choose one of the foreign languages, or if you want to teach art, you would want to major in studio art, and then you would add the education program to that. So as I mentioned with secondary, you would graduate with a degree in the content area with the licensure requirements. Now, foreign language, we know that, you know, even though it's a license to teach elementary through high school, not all elementary schools, of course, offer foreign language. We do have some schools that have Spanish immersion programs and things like that. So there is some opportunity there, but most of the time it would be at the middle school or high school levels. And then the last program that we offer is the special education. This is general curriculum only, which means that you are working with students that are typically in an inclusive classroom. They are usually following the standard curriculum, taking SOLs and things of that nature. So it is a variety of disabilities, but usually mild on the spectrum. So you would be working a lot of times with other teachers as you go through this program. Now with special education students can major in anything that you have an interest in. We do have some students who like to major in sociology or psychology. Both of them are very relatable and can definitely assist in this journey. We have other students who choose to work in, major in one of the content areas, which especially if you're wanting to work with students at the secondary level, this is a recommendation that you major in one of those content areas just so you have a strong foundation. So whether that be the English, the math, the science, the history, etc. But the other option, especially if you're interested in working with students at the younger ages, is you can combine the elementary education major with the special education endorsement. So you can major in elementary education, you can add on the special education endorsement pathway, and when you finish your undergraduate degree, you will have what is required to be licensed for both elementary as well as special education, which I forgot to mention, that is a license to teach K through 12, so elementary through high school. The special education program does also combine with the other programs. So if you're interested in, let's say, secondary education, math, you can add on the special education. Depending on the major requirements, it can potentially add on credits beyond the 120 needed to graduate. So we would work with you individually. We have a program director for special education that would help advise you to make sure that we align all of your courses and try to do this in more of a streamlined path. But special education can be combined with all programs, but especially with the major of elementary, since you only have that one major. Okay. So that's just a brief overview of our programs. Like I said, we will have time for questions, or if you have any questions at this point, feel free to use the chat, and we can definitely address those. So let me see. Oops. All right. So is the 120 credits just for education courses or for all courses? So the 120 credits is required for all programs. So all programs, all bachelor's degrees, I should say, require 120, whether you're in education or not. If you are just, you're getting a business degree, it's a minimum of 120 to graduate. So a 120 is the minimum to graduate from UMW with a bachelor's degree. So the question is it possible to major in communications, but teach or receive an undergraduate secondary education licensure in English, or as a school-specific journalism English teacher? So that is a great question. So if you are interested in teaching secondary English, you would want to major in English, or you could major in communications, but you will be required to take English courses. So the state is the guiding force here. We have to meet everything that is required for licensure in Virginia. And so there are certain requirements that the state puts forth as far as what we call endorsements, but it's really content courses. And for English specifically, they're going to want you to have a variety of literature courses, some linguistics, some writing courses, as well as some communications courses. So if you choose to major in communications, but your ultimate goal is secondary English, you may have some additional coursework that you would need to add on beyond the 120. It all depends on how the credits are laid out for all of these different components, but we would work with you individually to see how that aligns. So hopefully that answers part of that. Then there is a question about application. I'm going to come back to that because that's a whole nother topic on this presentation. On the first year questionnaire, did not select teaching. Do you need to go back? No, that is okay. Your first courses, you're going to have your freshman seminar class, your FSEM course. You're going to have general education requirements. Those are going to be the primary courses for your first semester. Students will be registered for their initial course load for the fall. However, all students will have the opportunity to meet with an advisor during the summer as part of orientation. And when you meet with an advisor during orientation, you will have the ability to express specifically, because some students may have chosen something and completely changed their mind by then. So you'll be able to express what you are interested at the time, and then you will be able to change that, let the advisor know, and if any adjustments need to be made to the fall schedule, they will be able to be done at that time. So you do not have to worry about going back and changing the questionnaire. Then let's see, would the extra English credits on top of communications, or is there overlap? So that's very difficult to say right off the bat. I would have to look. I'm a special, like I specialize in education, so I would have to specifically look at the English and the communications to see how those requirements align and if there is any overlap. So that would be more of an individualized advising session just to see how you could align those and be able to do all of those things along your journey. So majoring in communications, taking the English courses, as well as adding on the secondary education. So we could definitely work with you to see how that would work out moving forward. Okay. All right, so we'll take a pause there with the questions and we'll go through some more of the presentations, but please feel free to add any questions as they arise. So when we look at the format of the program, the one thing that we want to let you know is that you will be moving through in what we consider a cohort model, but it is called phases. The first phase is the first 2 courses, and then everyone proceeds to the next phase, which is the next 2 courses plus a teaching lab, and so on and so forth. So when you enter the education program, you are going to develop this cohort or community of being in courses with other students going through at the same time. All of our programs have the same 3 phases. So everyone is going to be taking those 3 phases. And then we branch off depending on which education program you're interested in. So of course, if you're interested in elementary and we're talking about classroom management, you're going to take a course specific to elementary grade levels. Secondary would take classroom management specifically for secondary. So there's going to be some variation in the programs beyond those 3 phases. Elementary education has the most courses. That is also why it's a major in itself, because of all of the different subject material that you teach and the courses that we provide within those different content courses. The practicum and the teaching labs. So there is going to be quite a few different experiences as you move through the program to get you into a classroom setting. Now we know this year has been different than we've ever seen before. And so we had a lot of virtual options and things of that nature. But our goal is that we are returning to in person in the fall, and therefore the hope is that we're returning to in-class experience as well. So during these different practicum and teaching lab experiences, we have a director of clinical experiences who places students with mentor teachers. These are teachers who are familiar with our program and our requirements and will provide a good foundation for you all as you go through and develop your knowledge and skills to become a teacher. And so the practicums will vary, usually 20 to 30 hours of classroom experience for that particular course. So the semesters in which you're enrolled in a practicum course, you would be assigned the mentor teacher. And this is done by getting some feedback from you as well. You'll be asked to fill out a questionnaire, finding out, where you live. Do you live on campus or off? Do you have transportation? Things of that nature, so that we can then make the best placement. You do not have to have transportation. I will say that. We do our best to either place you locally if you do not have transportation, or place you in schools where other students have been placed as well, so that like a ride share can be coordinated. But those placements, once they are made, you work with the mentor teacher to create your schedule. Like I said, it's 20 to 30 hours per course. And so you would arrange that based on your other classes. You would want to, of course, have little gaps in your time, and we will work with you when it comes to advising so that you're prepared for this. But you'll then get to go into the classroom and observe and assist the teachers as you go through the program. And the idea is that each of these experiences will build. So although it may start with observation, the goal is for you to build on that so that you're getting more involved, because the last thing that you do as part of the program is a full-time internship. This is where you're in the classroom each and every day from the start of the day to the end of the day, and you're getting to observe what it is to be a teacher, what it is to grade the papers, what it is to have conferences, things of that nature. And so during that time, you will not only have a mentor teacher, but you'll also have a university faculty member who will supervise you. And so they'll be able to observe you, provide you with feedback so that when you finish the program, you can feel more comfortable in the classroom and be ready to have your own class the following year. So that is the experience that you'll gain as you go through the program. One of the things I do also want to mention is, as I mentioned, the different grade levels that are being taught with the different license: elementary, pre-K through 6, secondary, grades 6 through 12. We're going to provide a variety of experiences. And so that means that if you are in elementary, you're going to have placements with the younger ages, and you're going to have placements with the older, the 4th grade, the 5th grade. Same true with secondary. You're going to have placements in middle school as well as high school. For the pre-K through 12 or the special education, we're going to try to get you a variety of experience, whether elementary, middle, and high, so that you can have that diverse experience going through the program. Some students come in thinking, okay, I definitely want to work with middle school. And then they have an experience in a high school and love it and change their mind. And so you'll see those changes based on your experiences. And so we want to make sure that you are exposed to the different grade levels. So 2 organizations that I just want to give you a heads up about. These are both related to the College of Education. KDP is our honors organization. This is one that you would be invited to once you're admitted into the College of Education, and it's based on your academic performance. And then SEA is a student-run organization that you can actually join right away. You do not have to be admitted into the College of Education to join, so you can get involved. Between these 2 groups, there is a lot of opportunities for community service, such as, I know they've done school supply drives, they've done book drives. There's also opportunities to engage in social activities, which we, of course, once again, hope are going to return to that in-person social engagement. As well as SEA organizes a conference every year, and that still happened this year. It just happened to be a virtual conference, but it actually focused on online education, so it was very relevant. And so they organize the conference and they bring in speakers from whether it be faculty members or even teachers and administrators from the community. So there are definitely opportunities for you to engage and continue your learning outside of just the classroom. So just to make you aware of these 2 organizations. A popular question that we get is funding. And so there is opportunities for funding through the university as a whole. So there are scholarships available. You have, of course, the financial aid option, but these specifically are for the College of Education. So students who are admitted to the College of Education can apply to scholarship opportunities. The university has one portal, which is great. One portal for all scholarships. You would go through, you would apply, and you can pick and choose then which scholarships you meet the requirements for and which ones you want to apply for. The scholarship applications are due early May each year and are awarded for the following year. So that is something that you would have the opportunity to do. These scholarships, as I mentioned, you do need to be admitted to the College of Education. So they're not scholarships that you can apply for immediately. They're not valid for that first year, and I'll explain why on a slide in just a few minutes. But once you're admitted, then you would be able to apply. The Teach Grant is another opportunity for students who know that they want to teach in a high needs area, which I will say most of our programs are because there is a teacher shortage. And so when we look at that, you would want to teach in a high needs area in a Title I school. And Title I is determined by free or reduced lunch. And there are schools in every district that qualify. There is a website out there that I can share with anyone interested to see what schools in our surrounding districts would qualify for that. Or I should say any districts within Virginia, really. But this is an opportunity for students to receive up to $4,000 per year. The objective is that students will, after they graduate, teach for 4 out of 8 years at a Title I school within the high needs area. So if you are willing to do that, you can then apply for the Teach Grant. The financial aid office does require students meet with them because there's an agreement that has to be signed. We don't want any students signing this agreement without fully understanding the terms, because if the terms are not met after graduation, the grant money does have to be paid back. So we don't want that to happen. So we do have you meet with financial aid office and go through the details in more specifics. With this particular grant, the same with the scholarships, you do have to be admitted. So it does not, it's not an option for that first year, but it is an option for the second year moving forward. And then the last one is loan forgiveness. And this is an opportunity for individuals who may not qualify for scholarships or may not be set on the Teach Grant, not sure of the terms of it, and you end up taking financial aid loans. And so you graduate, you start teaching, and you're paying off those loans. If you end up teaching in a Title I school for 5 years after graduation, you can apply for loan forgiveness, which you will have paid up to that point. But if granted loan forgiveness, it would be forgiven as of that point forward. So that's a big help as well. The big difference between Teach Grant is you have to commit up front. The loan forgiveness, you can take out loans, and then if you meet those requirements later on, you can apply for it. Okay. And I will tell you, all of this information we will continue to provide for you. As I mentioned, a lot of this is not available that first year because you're going to focus on the general education courses and really getting started. And so we will continue to work with you and share this information to make sure that you are aware of what you qualify for and when you qualify. So there was a question earlier about admissions, and so this is the admissions part of the session. And so the one thing to point out is that there are, as I mentioned, 2 courses for phase 1, and those are Education 206 and 207. Those 2 courses can be completed before applying officially to the College of Education. So if students are interested in education, but not 100%, this definitely gives you a little bit of a taste of what the program is about. And so you can do that before meeting all of the additional requirements in the program. That way, if you decide at the end of that semester that, teaching may not, maybe you want school counseling or something else of that nature, those 2 courses will still count towards the 120 requirement for graduation. So they're not lost credits, they will still count towards your degree. Under number 1, it gives you a little bit of a timeline as far as when we want you to start. So if you're interested in elementary or special education, we do want you to start your 2nd semester in these 2 courses. And then for secondary and P12, we want you to start the 1st semester of your 2nd year. The idea is that with elementary being a major and having more education courses, it does need more or more of a head start, I should say, more semesters to complete the requirements, as well as does SPED. During the semester in which you're enrolled in these 2 courses, that is when you officially decide, yes, I really am interested in becoming a teacher. I want to pursue this pathway. And then you would apply to the College of Education. And so we would work with you. I actually come into all of the 206, 207 courses and talk to students and talk specifically about the application process. But this gives you some highlights. There is an online application. It is separate. You know, you're admitted to the university, but then you're applying separately to the College of Education. And I will say this is part of our accreditation because we're an accredited teacher prep program. There are certain requirements that we have to meet individually from the university. And so that's why we have a separate application process. It does require a 2.5 overall GPA. So once you start at Mary Washington, you'll have 1 to 2 semesters completed at the time that you apply. And so we would look at your overall GPA. Then a minimum of a 3.0 or a B average in the education courses. So being that you apply during the semester in which you take 206, 207, we would look at the end of that semester to verify that you have met the B average in those 2 courses. And then submit passing entrance scores, which I'm going to share on the next slide in just a second. I do want to mention a couple things. If you are doing a Teachers for Tomorrow program in high school, you can potentially receive credit for Education 206 and possibly 207, depending on what levels of Teachers for Tomorrow you complete and what your school offers as far as dual enrollment. So that is something that we can look at individually, but I would work with you at time of enrollment to see whether or not you need both courses or just one course, or potentially moving on to phase 2. So all of that is dependent on your dual enrollment credit. Okay. So as far as admission testing, the university admits students test optional. So it could be possible that you apply to UMW and you did not submit any tests, and that's okay. You do not have to go back and submit them. If you have qualifying SAT or ACT scores, you can submit them just at the time that you apply to College of Ed. So the university as a whole doesn't need them if you were admitted test optional, but we would need them for our application process. So this gives you an overview. We need a math assessment as well as a reading and writing assessment. And so those can be met with either the SAT or ACT. If you have the scores that are listed on this slide, you do not need any additional testing in order to be admitted into education. We also can mix and match. So if you have a qualifying SAT math score, but not reading and writing, then maybe you only take the reading and writing test and vice versa. Or I have also seen students who took both SAT and ACT and meet one of the tests with SAT and the other with ACT. So we can do that as well. But if you do not have the qualifying score, you would need the Praxis Core Math for the math assessment, and the VCLA for the reading and writing. So to just talk briefly about the math. For the math, there are resources available. We will assist you. We provide free tutoring sessions to help prepare for this as well. So there are different resources available as you go through and start preparing. For the reading and writing, we do not offer tutoring, but we do have a writing center on campus that will meet with students and help prepare for the test. And I will say that the VCLA is a licensure requirement as well. So students will have to take this particular test regardless. It's just a matter of whether or not you're taking it at the beginning of the program or at the end. For students who do not meet the reading writing assessment at the beginning, you would take it, you would submit the passing score. We keep it on file so that when it comes time to apply for your license at the end, it's still valid and we would have that to submit. If you meet the SAT or ACT reading writing score, you would not have to take it at the beginning, but then towards the end of the program, we'll give you reminders because you would need to take it in order to submit with your licensure packet. Okay, so as far as the timing of this, if you know that you need testing, you can see right now that you don't meet one of the cutoff. If you want to start preparing, let's say over the summer before you get involved in all of your courses for the fall, you can reach out to me. I'd gladly provide additional information to get you in the right direction, but it's not required. We will provide this information to you during the year. We will make sure that you have what you need when it comes time for applying to the program. Okay. And the last thing, I just want to end on a positive. I know testing is not the positive, so we're not going to end there. But if you have been on campus or have driven by campus, you'll see along College Ave, you'll see this nice chain link fence hiding this beautiful building. But this is the future home of College of Education. Right now we're in James Farmer Hall, but we are going to be moving to Seekabeck. It's planned to be in there by this coming spring. So we are excited about that, January of 2022. So this building is going to have a lot of great resources for our students. It's going to have a lot of space for collaboration, technology, model classrooms, things of that nature, as well as it's going to house all of our faculty, advisors such as myself. So you will have all the resources for the College of Education in one location. And so we're really excited about that. So I'm going to put up my contact information. So if you have any questions that you want to ask outside of this presentation, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to meet with you individually if you would need. I am available throughout the summer as well. So if there is a time that you want to meet later around orientation, etc., just let me know and we can definitely arrange that. Okay, so I am going to stop sharing. I am, just in case you didn't get it, I am going to put in the chat my email so that you can still get that. But if there are any other questions, please feel free to type them now. There is one as a transfer student to be accepted into 206, 207 courses. Who would authorize that? So actually with transfer students, depending on where you're transferring from, we would also want to be sure of what courses you've taken. If you're coming from a community college and you've taken Education 200, that would be equivalent to 206. So we would work with you on that. But we do have a questionnaire that students would complete, and I can provide that for you. The questionnaire, it's We have a restriction on enrolling in the courses, not to prevent students from registering, but we want to make sure that students who are interested in education get a seat in those courses. We don't want the seats to fill up with students who may be interested in taking an elective. So we have a hold on those courses. We have students complete the questionnaire just to verify that you are really interested in the College of Education. And then you will receive contact from Anna Purdue, who is our office manager, who then will provide next steps for enrolling in those courses. And then also I will mention for transfer students, please reach out to me because with transfer students, our programs were originally designed based on the 4-year pathway. But we know that students are transferring in, and we know students are transferring with an associate's degree. And so based on that, we have transfer plans that speed up the program so that it's not, you know, for elementary, it's designed to take education courses 7 out of 8 semesters. If you're transferring in with 2 years completed, we know you don't want to be here for another 7 semesters. So we have a condensed transfer plan, and I would be the one to work with you to see where you're at, how many credits are you transferring in, and where we need to go. How do we need to adjust that plan for you? So definitely reach out to me after this session. How many students are in the elementary program? Oh, goodness. Altogether, that is a great question. Within all of our programs, we have several hundred. I don't know specific numbers, but I know that we have around 80-ish in intern this semester. We'll have 90 next. That's just 2 years of students. So it is a few hundred that would be in the elementary program, but not everyone's going to be in the same cohort. So that's going to be spread throughout. Any other questions? So the cohorts do not go by major. And so the cohorts are for the education courses specifically. So let's say you're an English major, you're going to meet with an advisor in the English department, and you're going to work with them as far as what requirements are needed for that particular major and create a plan moving forward. But then you'll also have an education advisor. So you'll meet with the education advisor, which will be me to start with. And so we will sit down and show you that plan and create that plan so that you know when you're starting the education courses and how you're moving through. So it is going to be 2 things simultaneously, your major and then your education program in that cohort model. You're welcome. Okay, study abroad. That is a great question. So, and I can't wait till we get back to traveling and have these study abroad opportunities. So with study abroad, it does depend, and we can work with you. I know that's 2 very vague answers. So if you are interested, let's say in secondary, our secondary program, we have a semester where no education courses are, and it's about midway through the program, so that students can focus on the major or take opportunities such as study abroad. So for secondary, for pre-K through 12, those it kind of naturally aligns more so. If you are interested in elementary, we will work with you to see what is the best option for you? How do we want to adjust your plan and try to accommodate that? The other option as well, a lot of times students think of study abroad as a full semester. There are other opportunities. There's study abroad in the summer. There's study abroad for, let's say, spring break. So there are some smaller opportunities as well. So it all depends on what you are interested in and what opportunities are available. So we can definitely work with you to accommodate a study abroad experience. Any others? These are great questions. And as I mentioned, feel free to reach out to me. We can definitely follow up with any individual questions that you may not feel comfortable asking in the group session as well. So do we have plans for dual majors? So a dual major is possible if a student is interested in, let's say, actually I just spoke with a student today who is in our program who's interested in double majoring in English and elementary education. It is possible. What we have to do is work together to fit those plans, the major requirements for both programs into that plan. Both programs have room for electives. So as I mentioned, 120 credit hours to graduate. If you add up the requirements for elementary education major courses and gen ed courses, it doesn't equal 120. The same is true for English and the gen eds. So both programs have room for electives, which are courses that a student can choose on their own. And so we can merge those depending on what the major is. It may require going above the 120. It really depends because the majors, there's not a set number of credits for all majors. So we do have to look at what is the majors that you're looking to combine and how do they fit together credit wise. And then if it goes beyond the 120, we can then provide that information for you and you can then make the educated decision based on that information of whether that's something you want to pursue or not. You know, does it require an extra semester or does it require that you take summer courses, a couple summers or something of that nature? There is not a general education major. So if you're interested in elementary education, that would be the major. There's not a generalized major. We do at the university have an opportunity for students to design a major. So if there's something outside of education and outside of what we offer that you want to look at, there is pathways for that. But if you're interested in education and teaching, you would want to choose one of the pathways because these pathways are specifically approved by Virginia Department of Education to align with licensure requirements. Okay, one more question. While the question's being typed, I will say if you have the opportunity, if you have not physically visited campus, be sure to take that opportunity. Even if all offices are not open at this time, please take the opportunity to visit. It is a beautiful campus. You can come familiarize yourself with the campus and start preparing for the fall. So definitely take advantage of that. So if you choose a specialized major for secondary education, can you come back and get your master's in education administration? Okay. So I don't want to talk too much about specialized major for secondary education yet. Let's talk about that individually, because if depending on what subject you want to teach, you're going to have to align with the Virginia licensure requirements. And so it's not kind of an open, you have to meet certain requirements, and I want to make sure that you align with that. But as far as the education administration, so we do offer a graduate program in education leadership. That is for students who are interested in, I shouldn't say students, I should say at that time teachers who are interested in being an assistant principal, a principal, working in central office for a district, things of that nature. That program requires 3 years of licensed teaching experience before you can start it. And that's actually a Virginia Department of Education requirement. So it is required that you finish the initial licensure program, you start teaching, you gain the teaching experience before going into the educational leadership program, so that you will have that background experience as you go through the program in prepping for an administration position. Okay. You all are very welcome. As we are almost hitting 7 o'clock, I'll go ahead and we'll stop for now. But like I mentioned, please reach out, ask any questions via email. We can always schedule a time. We can talk via phone or Zoom. Either is fine with me, and I'd be happy to meet with you all individually. So for now, have a great evening. Thank you for coming, and I'm glad you all are interested in becoming a teacher. We are definitely looking at educating and preparing you so that we can get great teachers out into our classrooms. So have a great evening, and we will be in touch.